The sound of crystal glasses clinking had barely faded when the first warning came from my own chest. A thin broken wheeze rose from my throat sharp and wrong like air leaking through a cracked pipe. My name is Saylor Cole. I am an American book conservator trained to repair manuscripts older than most nations. I spend my days in silence with gloves on my hands and dust in my lungs. Lavish rooms like this one are not built for people like me. This was my sister's night, her promotion, her spotlight. My sister Saylor Cole stood at the front of the private dining room glowing under amber lights. Her smile was polished, practiced, perfect, the kind that wins rooms and buries truth. She leaned toward the microphone with mock concern. "Here we go again. Saylor," she said, "don't make a scene. It's just mushroom soup, no shellfish. Or are you trying to ruin my celebration?" Laughter followed, uncomfortable, sharp laughter. The kind people use when they want to belong. Saylor thrived on moments like this. Attention fed her, approval sustained her. But she didn't see the man seated across from me, because Victor Rowan, chairman of Rowan Industries, wasn't laughing. He was staring at my bowl, and his face had gone pale. Victor Rowan's son carries an epinephrine pen everywhere he goes because Victor Rowan knows what anaphylaxis looks like. He knows the sound a throat makes when it begins to close. Before I could understand what was happening, he stood. One movement, one decision. He pulled an injector from his suit pocket and crossed the room faster than anyone expected from a man in his late 50s. But before that, before the wheeze, before the collapse, you need to understand why I was there at all. The dinner was meant to be intimate, a celebration for Saylor's promotion to Director of Communications at Rowan Industries. The restaurant required months to book a place where wealth whispers instead of speaks. Gold light, dark wood crystal. Everywhere it smelled like ambition. I was 26, already respected in my field. I restore rare texts, documents that survived fire flood, and war people call me meticulous, cold. Precise. My hands save history. Saylor is the opposite. She performs, she bends rooms around her. Will, where I preserve, she consumes. Our parents adored her. Their pride sat visibly beside her at the table. My work was invisible to them. Books were dust. She was brilliance. Earlier that evening, everything shifted. Victor Rowan arrived, and instead of greeting Saylor, he stopped beside me. He asked about my work, about paper chemistry, about preservation, ethics, about a private archive his company had acquired. 20 minutes passed. Saylor watched, silent, smiling, seething. Her night hijacked. Jealousy does not always scream. Sometimes it plans later. I learned what happened next. Saylor excused herself. Before the soup course, she went to the kitchen, found the head chef, praised his artistry. She asked for something special, a twist, a secret edition crab, infused oil, just a touch, something novel, something hidden. She knew my allergy. She had known since childhood. She believed I exaggerated, that a little exposure would embarrass me, prove I was dramatic. She didn't want me dead. She wanted me small. When the soup arrived, it looked perfect. Deep amber swirls, earthy aroma, truffle, masking everything. Saylor leaned close. I asked them to lighten yours, she whispered, for your sensitive tastes. I trusted her. I took one spoonful. 5 seconds later, my throat locked, my lips burned, my tongue swelled. Air vanished. I fell from my chair, clawing at my neck. The room tilted, sound warped, and through the haze I heard her laugh. "See," she said, "Oscar-worthy performance." That was when Victor Rowan reached me, and everything changed. I thought I was dying on a restaurant floor. What I didn't know yet was that this moment would destroy my sister and rebuild my entire life. I hit the carpet hard, not dramatic, not graceful, just gravity taking over a body that could no longer fight. My chest convulsed every breath. A battle. I was losing. The sound coming out of me didn't sound human. I remember hands reaching, voices overlapping chairs, scraping back, and then silence, the sharp kind that slices through chaos. Victor Rowan was kneeling beside me, his face calm, but his eyes locked, focused, experienced. Hold still, son, he said, you're having an anaphylactic reaction. I felt the pressure of fabric tearing as he drove the injector into my thigh. A sudden cold rush flooded my veins like ice water poured directly into my blood. Pain, relief, fear. All at once, air didn't return immediately, but the crushing grip around my throat loosened just enough for one thin breath. Then another. Someone shouted for an ambulance. Someone else ran for oxygen. The private dining room had transformed from polished celebration to controlled panic. Crystal glasses, abandoned linen, stained guests frozen, unsure where to look, and my sister stood there, watching. Her smile faltered just slightly, like a crack in glass. I didn't think I reacted with the last strength I had. I grabbed Victor Rowan's wrist, my fingers clamped around his watch like a vise. I couldn't speak, but I could point. I pointed at the soup bowl. Then I closed my fist. Victor understood immediately. Nobody touches anything, he said, his voice cut through the room like steel. This is evidence. This table is sealed. Security moved instantly, blocking exits, holding space. My sister laughed nervously. This is getting ridiculous, she said. It's a misunderstanding. Victor turned on her, cold, measured. Your misunderstanding nearly killed him. My parents rushed forward, confusion written across their faces. What happened? My mother asked. Why is he on the floor? Shellfish exposure. Victor said, severe. Without intervention, he would be dead. My father looked from the bowl to my sister. Slow realization sinking in sienna. What did you do? Nothing, she snapped. I didn't put anything in it. Before she could continue, the waiter stepped forward, hands shaking. Miss Cole, he said, you asked me to place that bowl in front of him. You were very specific. The room went still. Then the chef arrived, white coat, wrinkled face, pale. I don't understand. He said you requested the crab oil yourself. You said it was for a special experience. Every word landed like a hammer. My parents stared at my sister, not with pride, with disbelief. The paramedics arrived fast, efficient. Another injection, oxygen, mask, monitors beeping. They lifted me onto a stretcher. My blood pressure was dangerously low, my vision narrowing as they wheeled me toward the exit. Victor Rowan stood in my path. This was deliberate, he said quietly, and I will involve authorities. My sister followed us out. Her heels clicked too fast on the marble floor. Please, she said, please don't. It was a mistake. Victor looked at her, unmoved. You admitted to contaminating his food at a corporate event while representing my company. This is aggravated assault. My mother grabbed her arm. Tell me this wasn't on purpose. My sister opened her mouth, closed it. I lifted a shaking hand. Wait, I croaked. Everyone turned. Victor leaned closer, concern in his eyes. Don't call the police. Yet I whispered, my voice raw. My lawyer will handle this. Relief washed over my family, instant, visible. Thank you. My mother cried, you're such a good son. My sister exhaled and smiled. That smile told me everything. She thought she had won. She thought mercy was weakness. She thought I would fold like always. She didn't realize that silence isn't forgiveness, it's preparation. As the ambulance doors closed, I locked eyes with her one last time, and I promised myself something. Without saying a word, she would learn what happens when you mistake restraint for fear. They believed I spared her out of love. What they didn't understand was that I was buying time, and time is the most dangerous weapon of all. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and quiet fear machines hummed softly around me. Monitors blinked numbers. I pretended not to read. My throat felt like sandpaper soaked in fire. Every swallow burned, every breath scraped. The doctors explained things slowly, carefully, as if my body were glass. Severe anaphylaxis, airway trauma, cardiac stress from repeated epinephrine observation for days, weeks of recovery, speech therapy. They spoke about risk, about how close it had been. I already knew. The first night I didn't sleep. Every time my eyes closed, I felt my throat closing again, felt the carpet under my palms. Her laugh. By morning, something inside me had hardened. On the second day, my lawyer arrived, Mark Ellis, mid-40s, sharp eyes, no wasted words. He sat beside my bed and said, "Tell me everything." So I did, from the lobby conversation that sparked her jealousy, to the soup, to her confession, to the witnesses, to the sealed bowl. When I finished, he smiled, not kindly, precisely. "This is not a misunderstanding," he said. "This is premeditated poisoning. We have witnesses, physical evidence, a confession, and a corporate executive who saved your life. This is airtight." I nodded slowly. My voice was still ruined, but my mind was clear. "I want affidavit." I whispered from the chef, from the waiter, before anyone pressures them. Already in motion, he said. "Medical records, psych evaluations, expert testimony. We will document everything." I stared at the ceiling, then said the words I had never allowed myself to think. "I want her." Ruined? Mark didn't flinch. "Define." "Ruined career, money, reputation. All of it. Clean, legal, permanent." He nodded. "Once, then we talk settlement." The next days blurred together. Roman 4 tests, nightmares. My parents visited, apologetic, fragile, asking for peace. My sister didn't come. She sent a text, "Can we talk?" I didn't reply. Silence was doing its work. 3 weeks after the night I almost died, mediation was scheduled. Neutral office, beige walls, oak table, the kind of room where people lose everything quietly. I arrived early, hands trembling from medication, heart still unstable. Then she walked in late, of course. Perfect hair, muted dress, remorse practiced to perfection. Our parents flanked her like shields. She spoke first, tears, ready, voice soft. I didn't think it would be serious. I thought he exaggerated. I was teasing. My mother pleaded, "Your sister made a mistake. Please, let it go." My father invoked family forgiveness, unity. Something snapped clean inside me. No, the word shocked them. Mark opened his briefcase, documents sliding onto the table, witness statements, medical reports, search history, messages to the chef. The air drained from the room. 8 years. Mark said, "That is what the state will seek." Settlement, $900,000. My sister broke. Anger, fear, disbelief. She doesn't have that money. Mark calmly listed assets, her apartment, investments, jewelry. My parents paled. The choice was simple, pay or prison. They signed. I watched her signature shake, watched my parents guarantee her debt. When it was done, she looked at me. "Your brother," she said. I stood. "You tried to kill me." I walked out. The sun outside felt unreal, too bright, too clean behind me. A family collapsed ahead of me. Something new was forming. They thought the settlement was the end. They didn't realize it was only extraction, and what grows after poison is removed can be terrifying. The money didn't arrive all at once. It came in pieces, installments, chunks carved out of a life that had once been effortless. Each payment felt less like victory and more like gravity doing its job. My sister lost her job quietly. No announcement, no farewell, just a restructuring email and a locked badge. In our world, silence is louder than scandal. She sold her apartment, returned the leased car, watched her lifestyle dissolve into necessity. My parents changed. 2 phone calls stopped sounding. Warm conversations turned brittle. They never said it outright, but I could feel it. I had broken the rules. I had refused my role. I spent that year rebuilding myself slowly, methodically. Speech therapy 3 times a week. My voice returned rougher, lower scarred therapy for the fear, for the choking, for the betrayal, and work, always work. When the final payment cleared, my phone buzzed. Once case closed. I didn't celebrate. I leased a warehouse instead, exposed brick tall windows, light everywhere. I named the company Cole Archive Restoration, not because I loved the name, but because I refused to run from it. The money built the foundation. Equipment, staff time, clients came faster than expected. Word travels. When survival becomes legend, the man who saved my life came through on his promise. Victor Rowan gave me his private archive, centuries of letters, first editions, documents worth more than most homes. Why me, I asked. Because you know when to preserve and when to remove contamination. A year later, the company was valued in the millions. My sister was. Last I heard, she worked a call center, reading scripts, hanging up on people who hung up on her. Sometimes I wondered if she thought about that soup, that choice, that moment. I hoped she did. One afternoon, I stood alone in my library, sunlight floating through dust like gold rows of restored volumes surrounded me, each one once damaged, each one saved. My phone buzzed. Final payment confirmed. I turned back to my workbench, pulled on gloves, opened a manuscript. Some things can be repaired, some must be cut away. I knew the difference now. I thought the story ended there, but history has a way of resurfacing, and the past was done with me. Yet it was 3 years later when I heard her voice again, not in person, not in apology, in desperation. My assistant hovered in my office doorway. There is a woman here asking for you. She says it's urgent. I knew before the name let her in. I said. She stepped inside like someone entering a museum. They couldn't afford eyes scanning, measuring, comparing. The confidence was gone, stripped away by time and consequence. Her coat was worn, her hands restless. Silas, she said, like the words still belonged to her. I didn't stand, I didn't offer water. What do you want? She swallowed. I need help. She told her story quickly, like someone afraid the clock would run out. Debt, lawsuits, a former employer pressing charges over falsified reports, a public defender who barely returned calls. I listened without expression. Then she said it, the line she thought would work. You're my brother. I leaned back. No, the man you poisoned. Her face collapsed. I didn't think you would actually let me fall this far. I nodded. I didn't think you would actually try to kill me. Silence stretched. She whispered, please. I stood, walked to the shelf behind me, pulled a restored journal from the 19th century. This book survived a fire. I said, do you know how? She shook her head. Because the damaged pages were removed, not saved, not excused. I met her eyes. You don't restore rot. I turned to my assistant. Escort her out, she cried. She begged. She collapsed into noise. I didn't turn back. Some months later, I read about her conviction, fraud, probation, community service. Our parents didn't call. I didn't expect them to. That night, I locked the archive, turned off the lights, stood alone in the quiet. For the first time I felt free. People ask if I regret it. If blood should outweigh survival, I always give them the same answer. People love clean endings, redemption, reconciliation, hugs that erase history. They ask me if I regret it, if I ever wish I had forgiven her, if blood should have outweighed consequence. I tell them no, not with anger, not with bitterness, with certainty. I almost died because someone wanted to feel powerful. That truth doesn't soften with time. Forgiveness is not the same as access. Love is not immunity. Family is not a license to destroy. I rebuilt my life with intention. Every choice deliberate, every boundary enforced. The archive grew. International contracts, museums, private collectors. Sometimes I lecture now about preservation ethics, about knowing when intervention saves and when it lies. Students ask about my scars, the rasp in my voice, the way I pause before speaking. I Tell them preservation is about respect for materials, for limits, for truth. I never mention her name. I don't need to. Some damage teaches. Some damage warns. Some damage ends things forever. And that is not cruelty, that is survival. When I lock the archive at night, when the lights fade, when history rests safely behind glass, I breathe easily.